Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Sorry, we have information from ATO in the east of Ukraine, Andriy Colonel Lysenko, who's a spokesperson. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. President of Ukraine, Petro Poroshenko, had a meeting with the head of the Special Monitoring Mission OSCE, Mr. Pakanov. The head of the state mentioned the importance of broadening of the mission of OSCE in Ukraine, and he suggested to learn the opportunities as to further enlargement up to 1,500 monitors. Petro Poroshenko expressed supported the broadening the use of modern equipment to monitor the situation. The head of the mission told that the mission is planning to strengthen monitoring and control over the ceasefire mode, and in the near future, the number of monitors from the mission will grow, and there will be more armored vehicles used by the representatives of the mission. Also, the OSCE is planning to move their units closer to Russian-Ukrainian border. As to the situation in ATO, units of National Guards and military armed forces of Ukraine had an operation to deblock the block post near Smila Horosha, and during days there were battles, and artillery was used against the turrets and heavy equipment, and the enemy lost a lot equipment and people and had to move back. At the checkpoint, the new forces came to that point, and also with food, ammunition, and others, engineering. Engineers are working there to build the fortification, and they do it in order to hold other more powerful shelling. If that happens in Donetsk airport, our military men kicked back the storm of terrorists, and there was shelled from mortars and from Marinke Piske. Also they shelled in several areas. There is a concentration of military equipment and units of militants, and they were found on the direction on the north. That is Stanично Luhansk and Luhansk region, to Avdiivka and Debaltseve, and in the south near Mariupol and Volnovakha, and 10-Minevsky district of Donetsk region. Because of constant shelling of Luhansk TPP and battles near Bakhmut, because of that, there was a blackout in the north of Lugansk region. There was a shell near Kapitan Centralnej Stanice Luhansk and Trохizbenka. Infiltration group of terrorists. They shelled from mortars upon Zvenorodka. And they shelled armed forces near Debaltseve, near Chernukhino. They used a HRAD system during the day, and separatists became more active in the northeastern border from Mariupol. They shelled from 120 millimeter mortars and from HRAD systems, and they shelled upon positions of ATO near Tolotivka and Sartana. As a result of shelling during the last day, 3 Ukrainian military men died, 9 became wounded. In Sartana, because of the shelling, when civilians died, and OSCE also confirmed that, and they told that there were shelling from the east, that's where the positions of terrorists are. Battles and shelling of the position on the state border under control of Ukrainian armed forces, that did not happen. Armed forces of the Russian Federation continue active reconnaissance, and they violated the air border of Ukraine. And there were 2 drones noticed, one near Mariupol and the other one on the border with temporarily occupied Crimean Russians. Make a demonstration flights on helicopters along the border between Ukraine and near Milo and Troinski, Luhansk, and in Luhansk region, and but they did not violate the border. on the border of Russia and Free State Border Service of Ukraine, with active participation of regional administrations. They built 62 kilometers of anti-tanks trenches and other fortifications, and they developed 750 lines, and they also built fortifications. And the same was done on the administrative border with temporarily occupied Crimea. Border guards installed more than 200 towers, observation towers, and they prepare places for the service and positions of technical means. They monitorize and update radio location stations and posts of technical monitoring. As to the situation in towns and cities, terrorists don't stop shelling 11 quarters on the territory that is under control in Shakhtar district in Donetsk region. From Grad system, they shelled buildings in Nikishin. In Luhansk region, a group of terrorists shelled from mortars Gorodka. Because of the shelling of militants, of gunmen, they stopped. They closed 12 schools in трех Избенка, Чернуха, Nizhny Zolote, Toshkivka, Hirske, in Popasnyansky district with attendance of schools. And it's dangerous for children to attend those schools. There's a trend that the more military clashes between separate groups of those gangs and in the fight for control over property. Leaders of different groups of so-called DNR, they improved personal border guards because they're afraid that they will be destroyed by other gangs, and the opposition, the fights between them are so big, and that some gangs from Crimea, they don't want to participate in further clashes, and they are planning to leave the territory of Donbass between terrorists of so-called DNR and LNR. There is a sharper conflict because for resources and provided from Russia. Donetsk terrorists blame Lugansk terrorists and that they get the majority of that support. The split in LNR is getting deeper. Russian Cossacks announced that they create near Sverdlovsk in Rovenki and Transit, so-called Cossacks People's Republic. And Antratsitevsky garrison and leaders of Cossacks, they threatened to kill leaders of the gangs who refused to join it. And Donetsk region SBU arrested a 35 years old resident of Mariupol, who during the last 2 months called his relatives of those who were arrested and demanded money. And he was trying to find information about those who were arrested by militants, and he introduced himself as an influential person, and for liberation he wanted to get a ransom. And he committed 3 of such acts, and now SBU is working on him, and they will make a decision. Last night, a operational group of counterintelligence of SBU arrested 2 terrorists. One of them in May was recruited by Oplot, and he corrected the fire of terrorists from Grad system against Ukrainian armed forces near Antonievka and Yelizavetevsk and Donetsk region. The other one is a 25 years old citizen of Ukraine. She participated in battles on the side of the terrorists against Ukrainian armed forces, and as a civilian, she built trust among locals, and she collected intelligence and provided that to terrorists. As there is an investigation because of shelling by terrorists on the 15th of October. They destroyed the electricity line in Donetsk-Mariupol. That's why there is no international communication for those who live in Kurakhova, Volnovakha, and Vilova-Novosilka in Donetsk region. In the south of Donetsk region, the workers of metallurgy plants, they prepared 50 special units for our metal constructions of 20 like containers. There are beds and fireplaces, and that is for additional protection from artillery. And there will be concrete plates, and they will be installed deep, 3 meters deep in the ground. As to the direction of international community, the President of the U.S., Barack Obama, President of France, Hollande, Angela Merkel, Chancellor, and the Prime Minister of Great Britain, David Cameron, and head of the ministers, Matteo Renzi, they had a video conference on Wednesday, and they discussed the situation in Ukraine. Leaders of the countries underlined the necessity that Russia should meet all the commitments according to a Minsk agreement. The President of Ukraine, Petro Poroshenko, had a phone conversation with the President Obama, the U.S. President, and they spoke about control over Ukrainian-Russian border. The ministers of foreign affairs of France, Walter Steinmeier, and of France, Roland Fabius, they hope that by the end of October they will clarify the issue as to joint participation of the drones in OSCE monitoring mission in Donbass, and they call Russia to stick to the Minsk agreement, and there is a requirement to relieve hostages and to create a buffer zone in near borders, on the border. The head of NATO, General Breedlove, he told that NATO is not observing any progress as to pulling back of Russian forces from the border with Ukraine. And the Minister of Defense of Hungary, he told the official Budapest, will provide hospitals to Ukrainian military men in the military hospital in Budapest, and also will be prepared to train officers of Ukrainian armed forces to neutralize self-made explosive devices. And there will be Budapest will provide some money to the fund of NATO to improve the cyber defense of Ukraine. Montenegro, Norway, and other countries joined the last package of sanctions against Russia. The sanctions were introduced in September. They put additional limitations on banks and to the market of capitals in the EU. Also, they introduced the prohibition to provide services to projects with getting Arctic and shale oil. Also, the prohibition on export of double-use items. This is it. Please, your questions.
If you have information where exactly our servicemen were killed and what is the situation near Smilova and Bakhmutivka. We have just the accumulated data about the people killed and wounded. Where exactly, we do not know. As to Smilova and Bakhmutovka, the situation is still tense there. However, there are no actions as to withdrawal. There are no actions there as to withdrawal. Our military enhancing their capacities there. The reinforcement is getting there, and the intelligence is working there. Can you please specify who exactly is fighting there from Lugansk Republic, the Cossacks or who, near Bakhmutivka? According to our data, there are representatives of this Vizka Kazatsky, troops of Cossacks, but they are not on horses, not with sables, but they have very powerful military equipment, even artillery. Now little is left there after yesterday's actions. This happens. The question about the border, there was information that Russian military were withdrawing there. What is the situation now? How many did withdraw? We don't have information as to big numbers of Russian military who were near the border. so that they are going back to their places of dislocation. There was information that they are starting, but we have not fixed any withdrawal yet. Any other questions? I have a question. Do you observe any movement across the border of Russian mercenaries and weapons? We don't have exact information, but as far as we understand, if they attack at our checkpoints, then we understand that they get additional equipment and weapons and ammunition, and there are some uncontrolled sections of the border which are used by the mercenaries and the militants to replenish their reserves. And you said that the OSCE confirmed that the shell hit the residential area where this funeral procession was. Did they fix it just in one place? No, they fixed it in many places. But this case, when many peaceful citizens were killed, they just drew attention to that of the world community. And at that section, the representatives of the OSCE were working really hard. And they fixed that the shelling was from the position of the terrorists. Unless you have no more questions, thank you. And the next briefing of the National Security and Defense Council will be tomorrow at 12:30.
Брифінг. Канадські хірурги приїжджають в Україну і будуть проводити реконструктивні пластичні операції для тих, хто був поранений на Майдані і в зоні АТО. Тому всім, кому про це цікаво, прошу вас 13:30.